Hey there, crewmates! Gabe from Nexus Core here with another One Piece card game video, going over now the blue cards in set 3, and I'm actually very excited to talk about this one because it's another pretty novel deck. I saw the spoilers for the leader right when the set was starting to get announced, and this is going to be, I think, a pretty interesting one to go over, so without further ado, let us just hop right on into it. So first, our leader for our mono blue deck is going to be East Blue Nami. So usual, we should be expecting 5 cost, 5 life, or 5k rather, 5 life East Blue typing. As an additional rule, when your deck reaches 0 cards, you win the match instead of losing it. Already very interesting. So we have our very first in set 3 alternate win condition for the game, which is a pretty classic one, which is self-decking out. I also think it's kind of funny how it's the same color in Magic the Gathering that tends to have this deck out win condition. So already, I'm pretty excited to go over the characters that we're going to expect. However, she does come with an additional effect, which is Dawn 1. When your opponent takes damage to their life through the attack of this leader, you may trash 1 card from the top of your deck. So if she hits, you also get to mill 1 to get that engine going. So I think it's quite decent. So starting off with our our SR, it's going to be our man Usopp. 4 cost 5k, range attribute, no counter, East Blue typing. Rush, so already good because it's Rush in blue, and it's only 1 cost more than Zoro. As well, Dawn 1, when this character deals damage to your opponent's life, you may trash the top 7 of your deck. So this is already kind of an incredible card. It's basically just Zoro in blue, and while it costs 1 more, it comes with an additional effect to offset that, and the additional effect is also quite good. Um, because your opening hand is 5 and your life is 5, well, you have a 50 card deck. Once you get your 5 hand in life, you actually have a 40 card deck. So assuming it is you go first, you don't draw, you have 1 Dawn. Next turn, you draw 1, so you have a 39 card deck, you Dawn 3. The next turn, you have a 38 card deck, you Dawn 5. Tap 4 to play Usopp, put 1 your 5th Dawn under Usopp. Swing. If you hit, you mill 7, going from 38 down to 31. If Usopp hits 5 times, you are down to, assuming you never draw a card, Usopp hitting 5 times mean you mill 35 cards, so you only need to draw slash mill an additional 5 cards off of it. And granted, it's not going to be likely he'll hit 5 times, but the fact that he can expedite the process that much already makes this a genuinely incredible card for this build. Next, we have the Usopp Pirates. Love the war crime of putting children in combat. 1 cost 0k, counter 1000, East Blue typing. On play, choose an Usopp from your trash and add it to your hand. So, this is actually fantastic too, because Usopp is a great card, making your opponent mill 7. Your opponent's probably going to target him, and it makes him recurable, but also because Blue's whole thing is self-milling, if you mill an Usopp, you can play Usopp Pirates and get Usopp back anyways. So this is already a really strong package. This is great. This is like I was complaining about green in the last video, and I didn't say anything super glowing about red in the first video, but this is such a fantastic start already. Next, we have Gaimon. We got Gaimon. All we need is our Gaimon leader for animal typing, and I'm so happy. But shout out to the boy. 2 cost 0k, wisdom attribute, counter 1000, East Blue typing. When you deal damage to your opponent's life, you may trash the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, place this character in the trash. I think this is kind of decent because for it kind of turns Usopp functionally into a mill 10, which is a quarter of your uh post draw and life opening. So I think the fact that it costs 2 makes it a bit slow, and on its own it's mill 3, but the fact that you can combo it as well as you can makes it pretty decent. And while Usopp Pirates lets you only add Usopp, if we see other ways of salvaging from trash and making this recurable, it might make it better. So I'm kind of torn on this, but I do see it having potential. Next, we have Kaya, 1 cost 0k, counter 2000, East Blue typing. It has counter 2000, so it's already good. On play, draw 2, trash 2. This is good. It's drawing is functionally milling too, because you're just running out of cards already. You can do it turn 1, and you can sculpt for things you want to see. If you go second, you can play Kaya, draw 2, trash Usopp, and then play Usopp Pirates, because they're also cost 1, and add that Usopp Pirate back. So This is good. Already a good engine we're starting to see. Next, we have Karne, who is a 3 cost 3k slasher, counter 1000 East Blue typing blocker, and during your opponent's turn, if your deck is 20 or less, this character gains power 3000. This is quite solid. So, with cards like Usopp, being able to mill quickly is already decent, so it functionally becomes a it's pretty easy to make this a 6k rather blocker, so this is also quite decent. I think this is definitely worth considering. Next, we have Genzo, who's a vanilla with the East Blue typing, so not much more to say. Next, we have Zeph, our rare, 5 cost 6k strike attribute, counter 1000, East Blue typing. Dawn 1, when this character deals damage to your opponent's life, you may trash 7 cards from the top of your deck. So it is just a second Usopp for milling 7, and on play, return up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to its owner's hand. Then you may trash 2 from the top of your deck. This is phenomenal. So you can get rid, if you already have Usopp set up, you can play this on a later turn to bounce a low cost blocker to hopefully get Usopp through and also get a mill on top of this. And it can also let you mill an additional 7 by its own. So now we have 2 cards that have on hit mill 7. So this is phenomenal. Just a great card. Also love this altar. Like, this is kind of some Magic the Gathering caliber of art. I think it's really great. Whoopsie. Next, we have Nojiko, 2 cost 0k, Wisdom attribute, counter 1000, East Blue typing. On play, if your leader is Nami, return up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less to its hand. This is just great. You're likely to never be attacking with it unless your opponent's playing green and they have Momo or Bonnie. But the fact that for 2 Dawn, you can set your opponent back 5 Dawn is already really, really good. The trade-off for this is phenomenal, that this is definitely worth playing it for. Next, we have Patty, 3 cost 5k slash attribute, no counter, East Blue typing. On play, if your deck has 20 cards or less, you may return 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to its owner's hand. So being able to bounce another card for low cost is pretty good to help you get cards like Zeph and Usopp through. So this is definitely solid, and it has a good stat line too. Next, we have Boodle, who is 2 cost 0k, Wisdom attribute, counter 1000, East Blue typing, blocker, and on KO, trash the top card of your deck. This is already really good. It's a low cost blocker. Yes, milling 1 isn't phenomenal, but it's a low cost blocker that does its effect on KO. So you are effectively getting that mill for doing what this card would be doing either way. You would never be attacking with a low cost blocker, so this is a great card. Next, we have Belmare, 4 cost 5k ranged attribute, counter 1000, East Blue typing. Dawn 1, when this character deals damage to your opponent's life, you may trash the top 7. So we have a third copy of Usopp here for milling 7. And on KO, you may trash the top 3 of your deck. First off, great flavor. They gave Belmare an effect when she dies, but also both the effects are really good. Milling 7 is really good. Also, because she lets you mill 7 on hit, she is going to be a prime attack target. Your opponent's probably going to want to go after her anyways. And making your opponent mill 3, let you mill 3 by her being an attack target is already really good. So being able to get some mills out of it is definitely good. Then we have Mary. It's a vanilla, not much more to say, just a 1 cost East Blue typing. Then we have Yosaku and Johnny, 1 cost 3k slash attribute, East Blue typing. Dawn 1, if you have 20 or less in deck, this gets 2k. So it's in the late game, it is functionally a 1 cost 5k, which is genuinely really good, or 6k rather, because it has the Dawn attached. Very important thing to note, though, is it doesn't say during your turn. So it is a 1 cost 5k that works defensively. So if your opponent just doesn't want to deal with a 5k, on their turn, they'll still have to spend 5k on their turn to be able to even hit the thing to begin with. So genuinely a solid card. On to the events, though. We have Usopp's Rubber Band of Doom, 1 cost East Blue Straw Hat Crew typing, counter up to one of your leaders or characters gets 2k, then you may trash the top 1, trigger draw 1, mill 1. This is fine. I mean, it's a 1 cost 2k counter, which is already pretty decent, and it has the mill going for it. It's just the fact that you are only milling 1, I don't really like. I feel like if you're going to run a 1 cost counter, you're probably going to run something like a Desert Spada, just because being able to predict the next 3 is pretty decent unto itself, and the only trade-off is 1 singular mill. So I don't know if this will actually see play in a mill-centered build, personally. Next, we have Gum Gum Giant Gavel. 1 cost East Blue Straw Hat Crew typing. Counter, you may trash 1 card from your hand up to one of your leaders gains 4k during this battle. Then you may trash the top 2. Trigger, return up to 1 character with the cost of 4 or less to its owner's hand. I think this is actually pretty solid. One thing to note is it only protects your leader, so you can't use it to protect cards like Usopp or Zeph or your Belmare, your things that you want to mill. But on the other hand, it is a 1 cost 4k defensive counter, so running it for that alone is already quite good, and having the mill 2 on top of it is good, and it has a good trigger effect staple to it. So if anything, I think this might see play, maybe not at the full 4, because defensive events, you do want to tend to want to protect your characters as well, and not being able to do that can be a bit of a neg. But 4k to defend your leader for 1 cost is genuinely great. So I think this is a good card. Next, we have Sanji's Peel Off, 3 cost East Blue typing. Main draw 2, trigger, activate this main effect. I think this is good. It's a firm +1 because unfortunately the event does go to grave, but it does cost 3. So I don't know how consistently this will see play. It's a good trigger, but in the late game, you're really going to be wanting to get bodies out and pumping up your body so they can hit. So I don't know how much a draw 2 will be needed. But at the same time, in an East Blue deck, this card also kind of reads get 2 closer to decking out. So it's pretty good on that front alone. Next, we have 3,000 Worlds, 4 cost East Blue Straw Hat Crew typing. Main, place up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less to the bottom of its owner's deck. Trigger, place up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to the bottom of its owner deck. I think this is pretty decent as well. It's removal. It is a 1-for-1, but if you're there are plenty of good 5-cost cards. You have cards like 5-cost Law, 5-cost Luffy, 5-cost Queen. There are so many good. Being able to hit the 5-cost threshold already makes this pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised if this all play for that ground alone. And then to round it out, we have our first secret rare, and they gave it to the legend himself, Soga King. 7 cost, 6k ranged attribute, counter 1000. Typing is Sniper Island. This card's name is also treated as Usopp, so A+ flavoring. On play, return a character that costs 6 or less to their owner's hand, then draw 2 and trash 2. I think this is solid. It's very similar to the Doflamingo from the blue starter deck. It has 1 less power, but it comes with the counter, so it already has that going for it. As well, it has the draw 2, trash 2 stipulation on top of the bouncing, as well, because its name is Usopp, if you mill it, it is salvageable off of the East Blue, off of the Usopp Pirates, because it just needs to be a Usopp and not an East Blue card. On the one hand, I do wish it had the East Blue typing, but thus far, I don't think there's anything that requires an East Blue on board, so I don't think it matters that much. I think this is a pretty good card and is likely to see play. Yeah, there really isn't more to say about it outside of that. I think this is a solid card. Final closing thoughts. I'm actually quite impressed. I think overall, the deck. I know alt win cons are pretty contentious in the card game community, but I think this does it in a fair way, because yes, there are ways of milling outside of dealing damage, but the primary ways of milling, Usopp, Zeph, and Belmare, where you mill 7, they do it off hit. Your opponent will have 5 life if they're monocolor. Whitebeard damages himself, so we don't really need to take him into the consideration. And multicolors have 4 life thus far. So you're going to need to hit 5 times against multicolor and 6 times against monocolor. Assuming Usopp, Zeph, and Belmare hits 5 times, you are milling 35. So by that point, your opponent is already close to death anyways, because they are at 0. So I think because the best mills are tied to hitting leader and not hitting in general or not something else, I think the pacing of it is actually quite fair, that you shouldn't be bothered by a self-mill deck winning the game via self-mill, because if you're at 0 life, you're likely to you're in the danger zone already, And if they hit 5 times against dual color, that is what you need to lose. So I think this is actually pretty fair paced. And there's also a pretty decent amount of cards that just gain benefits off of having low deck counts, like your Yosaku's and Johnny cards. So I think overall, this is a solid deck that's also quite balanced in a way that it takes a very contentious alt win con in a way that I do think is actually fair and not really worth complaining about. So I don't think I'm gonna build this personally. Self mill just isn't my style, but I do actually appreciate this for the novelty that it provides to the game. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know if you're excited to build East Blue. Let me know if you think I'm wrong and this is going to actually be some kind of tier 0 threat. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.